Welcome to the Profit Talks podcast, hosted by the Orange County Inland Empire SBDC Network, funded in part by the U.S. Small Business Administration and the California Office of the Small Business Advocate. This show is the go-to resource for business owners seeking empowerment, education, and resources to succeed. Join us as we connect you with experts, share the triumphs of fellow entrepreneurs, and reveal the wealth of assistance available to you today to level up your business. So let's go. Let's dive in and learn more. And boy, are we going to learn a lot today here. You know, the show is based on talking to three different groups of people here. One are our partners, of which we have many here at the SBDC, people that help us do what we do, starting with the SBA and all the other people we work with and chambers and other things. The second are the stories of the real people that we work with and what the challenges they're going through and how they overcome them here. And then the last piece of the puzzle are the consultants, this vast network of people that we've assembled here who have the most incredible backgrounds I don't think most people know about. And today we're going to talk about one of those people, and she's going to share with us not only her background, but some of the lessons she's learned in all the years she's been doing sales and marketing. Welcome, Lisa Napolitano. Did I get that correct? Oh,
so much for having me.
All right, let's get your mic up there. That'll help. All right, so Lisa, tell us real quickly who you are and what you've done in your life. I know there's a lot to it, and we could spend the whole show talking about it, but let's see if we can summarize some of the highlights here of your sales and marketing career.
So I live in La Quinta, California, and I have for the last 15 years in the Coachella Valley, but I am a New Yorker. I was born and raised in New York. I lived in Chicago for a little bit of time, but I really started my career after college in New York City. And after working in retail management for a little bit and deciding I didn't like it, I stumbled into this opportunity to be the CEO of a not-for-profit, which sounded really exciting and cool. I was 23 years old, but the truth is it was going bankrupt. And the men who were in charge of this non-for-profit didn't know what to do. So they needed somebody cheap and enthusiastic and energetic to put into the position until they could figure out how to solve the problem of keeping this business afloat.
And you say it's a not-for-profit. This, I typically think of a charity, disease or something. This was not that. This was like a trade association, right?
Yep, business association for sales executives, corporate sales executives around the country. So it was a professional association. It only had about 150 members, and it was very regionally focused in the New York area. But I was 23. They didn't, they had gotten it into trouble in the first place. So it's not like they had all the answers, and there were no other staff people. So I just sat in an office and thought to myself, I better learn. I better learn everything I can about this topic so that I could figure out, A, why do we exist? What value do we have to provide that people would care about? And B, is there a business model where we could make enough money to stay afloat?
Right. So you learned the hard way on the job training. They literally gave you a phone and a desk and said, see if you can figure out anything. We're not sure this thing's going to stay alive, but see if you can keep it alive. Maybe as a placeholder till we get somebody really big. Or if not, maybe Lisa can figure something out. We're not holding out a lot of hope. She's 23 here. But you learned what every entrepreneur learns. You got to wear every hat. You got to be creative. You got no budget. You got no plan. There's pressure on you here to perform.
Totally. And I loved every minute of it because I had complete control and autonomy. So I enjoyed that. Sure, it was scary, but I liked the fact that people were leaving me alone to sort of figure something out. And I had to educate myself a lot. I had to talk to a lot of customers to find out what were their problems that they were hoping that their membership in this organization were going to help them with.
Right.
Ironically, they hadn't really been talking to their customers very much before. And I didn't take a class that told me, this is how you do marketing. I didn't take marketing in college. It wasn't something that was offered where I went to college. So I didn't even have a college background in it at all.
Right.
So I learned a lot. And eventually I pieced the puzzle together enough to say, I think this is where we can make a difference in the marketplace. Now, who's going to help me? How am I going to find people who will help me, who aren't going to cost a lot of money to help me, because we don't have a lot of money? And I ended up staying for 15 years, which
wow.
seems, it's kind of crazy at the end of the day, but So I always say I started out as the CEO and I left as the CEO. It meant something very different from when I was 23 and the only employee.
Yeah.
We had 150 members. And when I left, we had 22 employees. We were global.
Look
We
at that.
had about 6,000 members and a bunch of corporate members, a big budget. So everything that happened over 15 years was a hands-on, roll up the sleeves, learning experience. And no matter how sophisticated and big we got, we never stopped trying to be better.
Right.
And eventually I left because I felt I had done everything I could do. And I wanted to work with these corporations one-to-one as a consultant myself.
So that takes us perfectly into the second half of your career, which was
Right.
you created your own, shall we call it a consultancy, a sales strategy firm here.
Yep.
And these big companies that you'd come to know through this trade association said, maybe I can do some work with you one-on-one in your sales organization. Give us some idea of, these are big companies. These aren't little mom and pop shops for the most part that you work with, right?
Oh, like Pfizer, IBM,
Few names like that. Yeah, right. Exactly.
UPS, yeah, really big companies. Talking to them about sales strategy. And I'll tell you though, I had a really good network that gave me a leg up. People knew who I was and knew that I was a subject matter expert
Right.
before I became a consultant. However, the thing that was hardest for me was that I was so small as a firm.
Mm-hmm.
You have a big company like that, when they hire outside expertise, they don't usually hire somebody that's all by themselves or is a shop of two people. They hire firms that have more people, more ideas, more bench strength, people that can be in 6 continents at the same time,
Exactly.
teaching something. So my size, the size of my firm, which couldn't get any smaller than it was because it was just me and then my partner in Europe, that was our big impediment. Would someone take a bet on us when we didn't have the backing and the resources
Right.
that some of these bigger
You might have the
consultants
knowledge,
have?
but can you execute it? Can you bring it to our global organization in multiple places all at once here? Yeah.
And I had to be honest about some of the things I could not execute. If you needed me to teach people in 4 continents simultaneously, couldn't do it. I could have built a partnership with other consultants to be my proxy,
Right.
but I was very picky about my ideas and I didn't agree with a lot of the other consultants out there. So I just basically said, this is what I can do. This is what I know I'm good at. And if you want something that looks like X, I'm not for you.
Right.
So I was very clear about what was a good fit, where I could add value and where it wasn't a good fit. And it would be wrong of me to try to just take the money and pretend that it could work. So as people say, jump off a cliff and build your wings on the way down.
Yeah, right.
I'm a fan of that to some degree, but when people are spending that kind of money on you, you have to be honest about what you're capable of and not.
Exactly. Okay, so now you're out flying. You're maybe falling down to earth in reality here because you don't have an organization behind you. You're on their own. Take us through some of the struggles of those first couple of years. You knew what you were doing, but could you get anybody to hire you was one challenge. Anything else that you saw? Any other? Dealing with big companies is different than dealing with small vendors. They don't pay real fast. And
oh, no. Well, for sure. So, I mean, the not-for-profit environment has a sort of safety to it because even though you have to make enough money to fulfill the mission,
right,
the pressure to make more and more and more money is not there, not the way it is in a for-profit environment.
Right.
So I felt a different type of pressure with people hiring me. And because they were hiring me around sales strategy, when you're a consultant, what if the client doesn't take your advice? Whose fault is it if they don't get any better? Is it your fault because you couldn't convince them, or is it their fault because they didn't implement it?
Right.
So, you get to go in
and who suffers at the end of the day? They might not get the results they do, but you get fired. Yeah.
Yeah, and you're only there for part-time. So to me, one of the struggles in that small business I had was that I would only be a short-term interventional type of person. I didn't have my own team. I would sit in my office and talk to the walls and brainstorm with myself, or maybe some mentors that I had in my life where I would find people that I could bounce ideas off of because I didn't have a staff.
Yeah.
And
right.
so I think small business owners often are in their own echo chamber, in their own mind, and they maybe call on their spouse or their best friends or the people closest to them in their life, but maybe those are not the people that are the best to give business advice.
Exactly.
That's what's great about SBDC. We're consultants who aren't going to make money if you make money or not. We don't have any investment in your business. You don't have to listen to us at the end of the day. You don't go home with us. We are neutral parties who just want to help you,
Right.
and we're good at listening too. And so I think people find that having that business planner, partner, confidant, sparring partner, every small business needs that. And SBDC can really fill that niche. I mean, I didn't know about SBDC all those years ago. I wish I had, because I would have availed myself of their services for sure.
So how did you get into the SBDC? You still have a business. That's what people don't, I think, grasp about the consultants at the SBDC. This isn't like you're retired and you're still out running a business, right? You're still out doing other things, or are you full time?
That's what SBDC wants. I
Right.
mean, SBDC wants its consultants to still have a foot in the door of entrepreneurship, to be current on what the challenges are today,
Right.
versus 5 years ago versus 10 years ago. So almost exclusively, all of the consultants have got some type of business, if not more than one type of business, that they work on part-time.
Right.
And they do SBDC consulting part-time. And so this was in 2019. I realized that one of my challenges as a private consultant is when you deal with a very big company like IBM, you can't have 5 clients. There's not enough of me to go around.
That's true.
But
Right.
the ebb and flow of the work, I could be working really hard for 3 months, and then a month or two, I don't need to do anything with that client. And I would say, well, what am I going to do? I can't get another big client because I won't be able to do all that work. So I was looking for something to sort of fit my calendar that was something I was capable of doing a good job with, but that I also cared about.
Right.
I'm getting too old to do things just for the money. I wanted to actually feel good about the work.
Amen. And you said earlier when we were talking offline, it kind of is, maybe this is too harsh a way to put it, but it kind of gives you a kick. You kind of get a kick to see if you can translate what you've learned running big organizations and working for big enterprises to small enterprises and to startups and to smaller clients. You know, do the same principles apply, or is it a different world altogether?
It's a little bit of both. So, I mean, I think having experience as a small business owner myself provides the right amount of balance against the experience I have with big corporations, so that I understand both sides of the coin. Yes, some things are very translatable. I mean, especially in the area of sales. The one thing is, a bigger company has a lot more resources and spends a lot more money on data, analytics, professionalization of different things around sales and marketing that a small business will never be able to do.
Right.
And yet they still don't get it right a lot of the time. Otherwise, they wouldn't need to hire me, and they wouldn't need to keep spending all this money. So it's just as hard for a big company to do good marketing as it is for a tiny company to do good marketing, even with all the advantages a big company has. So I try to talk to SBDC clients about the kinds of things that are evergreen and true, no matter what kind of business you have. I always try to start there. Everything becomes customized to your actual situation, sure. But I always start out with the truisms, the things that are the most important to talk about, no matter where you are or what you think is wrong with your company.
Well, I'm sure you picked up lots of truisms, lots of points, and in the 15 years you built this one organization, and the many years you did after that working with large corporations. We've only got time for 3 points here today. And
Okay.
I think the first one, you gave me some notes to pick from here. I think the first one is the most fascinating sales advice or sales question I've ever heard. It's the one nobody asks, and it's this: increasing sales is what it's all about. It's all that matters to small businesses, right? It's all about getting more sales. Is that really the first priority? Is that really true? Because that's what we all think. You start a business, I got to start making money. I got to start getting sales.
Yes, and everybody that comes to SBDC that I've talked to, invariably, this is one of the first comments they make, or things they're worried about if they haven't launched yet. You know, I've got to figure out how to sell, how to sell. And of course you do, because if you don't sell, you don't have a business. And I always tell small business owners, you are the chief salesman, you are the chief saleswoman, you're the chief sales officer. Right. So you know, some people don't like the idea of selling. So I always try
to say,
meat
and pizza, so I'm going to open a pizza shop. I love health and wellness, so I'm going to open a shop that sells all these products or something. I'm an exercise freak, so I'm going to open a Pilates studio or something here. It's
right.
a
And they
passion.
think if I build it, the customers will come.
Right.
And so once I establish that you are responsible for sales, and if you're not getting sales, this needs to be a big part of your job. However, when you come to me and say, Lisa, I need you to help me sell more, I say, I believe you. However, that's not the first priority. I want to understand a few things about your business. So I'll give you one example
Okay.
of a scenario where focusing on increasing sales is premature.
Okay.
What do your margins look like?
Oh, yeah.
I had a client who was selling stationery products, and she would design these cute little graphics and she would put them on notebooks and pens and mugs and things. And she said, well, I'm only selling so many. And my first question was, well, let's see how much you actually make on these things that you sell. Because if you don't make enough money on them, why do I want to help you sell 4 times as many so you could be 4 times more deeply into trouble that you're not making money? So I want to know how profitable is what you're selling. Because if that's broken, we got to fix that before we try to sell anything else, right? Yeah. So that's the first thing we look at. Are your margins healthy?
So let me give you a bigger example. I don't have any firsthand knowledge of this, but I was a small business owner myself at one point. I owned a bar and restaurant in Mission Viejo called Kelly McHugh's. It was like an Irish pub. So I would read about in the restaurant magazines, bigger chains, and dream, if only we could become something like this. And the one that fascinated me at the time was Planet Hollywood. Planet Hollywood, famous stars, huge infusion of cash, glitzy locations all over the place, Vegas, Hollywood, New York, everything else. Except a couple years in, they realized their margins were all upside down. So yes, the sales went up. Their overall gross sales went up, and so did the amount of money they lost. Every time they opened a store, they just added to their losses. They
were failing faster.
They were failing faster. And
That's right.
And in a certain sense, it helped them raise their stock price because, look, our sales are going up. Don't you want to get on board? Don't you want to buy into this thing? Except the more the sales went up, the more they got in trouble. And they kept thinking, we'll fix that later. Let's just get the sales, and we'll figure out the margins later. They never did. And it caused,
so that is the first thing I want to understand. And if a client doesn't know the answer to that question, then we help them figure out what their margins are. The second thing is, okay, if you were to double your volume, what would that look like for your business? So let's say you can make enough money on the products and services based on the way you've priced them. But if you were to sell twice as much or 50% more, can you scale the business? Where is the breaking point in scalability where your quality is going to start to drop?
Right.
Whether it's the quality of the product itself, the quality of the experience.
Can't make them fast enough. Can't make them the same with the same
Can't
precision.
deliver them on time. Can't provide the same high touch customer service on time. Mistakes get made. So is the quality going to suffer, or do you have to add on resources to be able to scale and meet that demand? Do you have to hire more people? Do you have to get different equipment and all of that?
And how do you learn? There's a learning curve, how to hire people, how to manage a bigger organization. I'm not running it all myself anymore here, and I'm delegating to others. Do I know how to even delegate? Simple things like that. I've worked with, years and years ago, I did some PR, a lot of PR, and I'd see companies kind of in that mid-growth where they suddenly, where it no longer is something that the founder, the creator of this company has total control anymore. People are having meetings, one of them told me, and I don't even know what they're talking about, and it's my company. Yeah, because you can't be in every meeting. You can't make every decision at some point. And that's when many companies start to fall apart.
Yeah, and so, sometimes clients will come to us and say, I have a good problem. We are booming, and I don't know how to control and wrap my arms around how to adjust my business to meet the demand, and make good choices. So it isn't about, do I have resources to scale? Because sometimes you're still not making enough money to scale properly to meet that demand. So you would not want to drive your sales volume faster than you can create a plan and build up the savings to deal with the scalability it requires.
Because once you blow it, you can't come back to your customer and say, well, I know we blew it. We didn't deliver like we said we would. The product was crappy. It didn't arrive on time here, but we figured it out now. And thanks for...
Customers don't care. You've lost the trust in the customer. So this is critical. So scalability is really important. So before you say, I want to double my sales, I want to talk to you about what does the business look like if you sold twice as much,
Right.
or three times, pick a number and let's do some scenario planning and understand, do you know what to do? Can you find what you need in terms of resources? And how does that change your profitability?
Right.
Will the expenses be outweighed by margin or not? Will you make a little less money, but you'll still be able to grow? Because if you can't answer those questions, be careful what you wish for. You don't want to just sell more. You
Right.
want to understand what that means for the business.
Okay.
So
Give me another one. There's two reasons. Maybe your margins aren't very healthy, or maybe you're not prepared for this growth. You think you are, but when you really get there, oh my God, I can't handle it. I can't deal with it. I can't finance it. I can't buy enough goods and services. And yeah, I'm going to make. I had a client years ago was selling to like Costco or somebody big like that. And so they got a huge order, bigger than they've ever gotten. They were going to double, triple their sales, and they took the order. What they didn't realize is Costco's not going to pay for 9 months. And meanwhile, they had to buy all the stuff up front and manufacture it and ship it and everything else, and sitting around waiting. They almost went out of business.
Mm-hmm. Cash flow. So the third point would really be, let's say you're ready to increase sales. We've looked at your profitability. We've looked at scalability and all that. What about upselling or repeat sales? Because when you think about increasing your volume, the first thing people think about is finding new customers, but it costs 5 times as much on average for a big company or a small company to acquire a new customer than it does to keep an existing one. So I always say, what is your plan for your existing customers? What do they buy? Are you selling them something they will need over and over and over again? Could you have a subscription model? Is it a one and done? Do you sell them a piece of equipment that once they own it, they're never going to need it? Could you sell them a service plan? Or could you encourage them to buy more of what you sell? So for instance, I have this type of compostable washcloth that you use, and it's supposed to be eco-conscious, and you save money on paper towels. It's like a Swedish washcloth. Nobody had to convince me to buy it. I'm an expert shopper. I went online. I found the ones I liked. I bought 6 or 7. When they shipped me my 6 washcloths, there was a little card in there that said 20 ways you could use this washcloth. And I thought, well, I don't need to read that. I already know what I'm going to use them for. I'm an expert. I read the card. I had 5 of the 20 ways I was going to use them, and another 5 appealed to me. And what did I do? I got online and I ordered another 5 washcloths. So even though I was going to throw these away and I could be a repeat customer, it was the kind of a product that you'd need more of.
Right. And why are so many of us, I'm sorry to jump in, but you hit another hot button here. Why are so many companies, big or small, always looking for the new customer? We forget about we take them for granted. Yeah, we already got their business, but I need new customers, new people. And too often you lose them along the way. So you're just churning. I got 3 new customers, but I lost 4 customers in the process because I wasn't paying enough attention. Or,
or I didn't maximize the customer base I had. So, what's the customer lifetime value? How much am I going to buy for the total duration that I know this company that makes these washcloths? Maybe I'm worth $1,000 to them, even though these washcloths are $5.99 or whatever they are.
Right.
So I was going to keep buying them as long as the quality was still there. Something dramatic didn't change, but they convinced me to buy twice as many by putting that card in there. Now, should they stop there, or should they start to carry things on their website that are adjacent to this washcloth to maybe get me to buy other kinds of things?
I was just going to say that I can't tell you the number of companies that I've had business with, or I've known people that did something with them. I was doing their PR or something else here. And they're always saying, we make 6 things, but they only buy 1. And I said, do they know you make those other 5 things? Well, they should. It's on our website. Do your salespeople talk about it? Do you talk about it? Or did they buy you for 1 thing and they'd be shocked to know you make something other than that 1 thing?
Or are they the kind of customer that would never buy the other 5 things, and therefore is your product mix a little bit flawed?
Yeah,
I mean, that
exactly.
could be the case too, right? So you have to say, how can I get the person that already knows who I am and has already given me their money and isn't angry? So let's assume they're not unhappy.
Right.
How can I get more money from them? You can sell them more of the same thing, or with a greater frequency or more volume. You can offer them things that go along with, or they might also be interested in, or you can bonus them on a loyalty program, a subscription program, or even a referral program where you get them to talk about why they love you, word of mouth marketing, which is one of the cheapest but most effective ways to get a new customer, which I also find a lot of small businesses do not think about referral and loyalty programs, which are inexpensive to launch, to manage, but can be incredibly powerful to leverage that loyal customer and get them to sell for you. Well,
we're going to have to get you to come back and teach us how to do more sales, because we only got through 2 of the 3 I was hoping for. The last one, we'll give you a tease for some future episode, is once you've done all this, you really have very specific ideas on how to increase sales. That first goal may not be the real goal. Maybe you don't need to get sales until your margin's right and you can handle the growth. And maybe you got to figure out some of these other issues about scaling it and upselling it, make it repeatable. But you've got some other ideas about pricing things competitively and differentiation. Target markets, the one question nobody knows. I sell to everybody. No, you don't. And when you think you do, you're in trouble, right? Everybody's got to get a focus. Well, I can only
come back to talk about those.
We'll have to have you come back and talk about those some more here. How do they reach you? What center? You're at the Coachella Valley Center out there?
I've been part of the Coachella Valley SBDC network, and you can look me up. You can Google me on the Orange County Inland Empire smallbusiness.org, our website. And I don't know that you'll remember my mailing my email, but it's my name, Lisa.Napolitano at OCIE SBDC.org. So,
okay. Well, or you can just come back and hear more, because I'm sure we'll have you back along with some other consultants over time. It just goes to show the breadth of experience in this organization. I'm amazed as we even started the show. I thought I knew some of you people, because full disclosure, I'm part of the organization too, and I've met different people at different events. But there's so many centers and so many people in each center. I don't even think we in the organization know the full depth of our bench here. So I appreciate the opportunity to meet you along with everybody else and to see what you've been doing. Fascinating story. Look forward to seeing where it grows and where it goes from here. Thank you so much for joining us, Lisa Napolitano. Come back and we'll share more.
Will do. Bye, everybody.
As we conclude another episode of the Profit Talks podcast, we hope we've empowered your entrepreneurial spirit. Reach out to us to connect with our experts, and let's take your business to the next level. Keep those dreams alive, keep pushing forward, and stay tuned for more. And if you liked what you heard in today's podcast and you want your business to reach new heights, just contact us at profittalkspodcast.org or call us at 1-800-616-7232. That's 1-800-616-7232. So until next time, keep thriving.